The candle on my father's birthday cake is shaped like a 6 and a 0, and I've been staring at it for 11 minutes because it's easier than looking at my mother's face. The Sterling is the kind of restaurant where everything costs too much, and the portions are too small, and the lighting is specifically designed to make wealthy women look 10 years younger. My mother chose it, which means she is already winning, the night before it has even started. I sit between my younger sister Lily and an empty chair, Daniel's chair, and I press my thumbnail into my palm hard enough to leave a mark and count the small mercies. Lily is here. The bread is warm. My father, at least, looks genuinely happy, his silver hair combed neatly, his reading glasses pushed up on his forehead the way he always wore them when I was small, and he was still someone who asked about my dreams before deciding they were inconvenient. Mia. My mother says my name the way she always says it at family dinners, with a slight pause before it, as if she needs a moment to remember I exist. She is steering an older couple toward our table, the Flemings. Family friends I haven't seen since my cousin's graduation 4 years ago. You remember the Flemings. Their son just made partner at Hendricks and Burke. A beat. A very particular beat. Mia is still in Seattle. She does something with video games. I smile at the Flemings. They smile back. The something lands exactly where she intended it to. I do not do something with video games. I built a studio from $14,000 and a second-hand laptop in a one-bedroom apartment, and last year, Vortex, the puzzle adventure game my team spent 3 years developing, was downloaded by 4 million people in its first month. But my mother has been practicing this particular version of me for so long that correcting it feels like trying to stop a river with my hands. The Flemings move on. Lily touches my arm under the table, just briefly, and I am grateful for it the way you are grateful for small lights in dark places. My phone buzzes. Daniel's name fills the screen. Delayed board ran over. 20 minutes. I'm sorry, Mia. I love you. 20 minutes. I can survive 20 minutes. I met Daniel Park 18 months ago at a developers conference in San Francisco. He was the keynote speaker, and I was in the third row nursing terrible coffee and a hangover from the networking event the night before. And when he said, "The people who build things that matter are usually the ones everyone else decided to stop believing in first," I wrote it in the margin of my program and didn't realize until later that my hands were shaking. He found me at the reception afterward. He said he'd played Vortex twice through and wanted to talk about the mechanic in the third chapter that most reviewers had missed entirely. We talked for 4 hours. We have not really stopped since. I haven't brought him home. I need to be honest about that, because it is the thing my mother has been using against me for almost a year and a half, and she is not entirely wrong to find it strange, even if her reasons for caring are entirely wrong. The truth is that the first time I tried Thanksgiving, 14 months ago, my mother called me 2 days before and spent 40 minutes explaining that Ashley was bringing her new boyfriend, a cardiologist named Brooks, and that it might be a lot of personalities for one weekend. I understood what she meant. I told Daniel. He said, "We'll find another time." He said it easily, without hurt, which I think I loved him for, and also grieved a little, because I wanted someone to be indignant on my behalf. The second time, my father's hernia surgery, Daniel was in South Korea, closing a deal that took 6 months to build and could not be delayed. The third time, my grandmother's 80th. My mother texted me a week before to say that Grandma was a little confused lately about relationships and it would be simpler to come alone. By the time tonight arrived, it had been 14 months of almost, of nearly, of my mother telling her friends in the careful way she does, that Mia is seeing someone, but it's complicated and you know how Mia is, always off in her own world. I know because Lily told me. Lily tells me everything, which is the only reason I know what I am walking into at any given family gathering. "She showed Aunt Karen your Instagram," Lily murmurs, leaning close enough that her hair brushes my cheek. "The photo from the Vortex launch party," Aunt Karen said. "That's probably just a coworker." Of course she did. My older sister Ashley arrives 20 minutes late with Brooks, who is tall and immediately at ease in the way that men who have never had their existence questioned tend to be at ease. My mother stands to hug them both. She straightens Ashley's collar. She asks Brooks about his practice in the warm, interested voice she uses for people she has already decided are worth her time. She asks me, when she passes my chair, whether I've eaten enough. I have been here for 45 minutes and have consumed half a bread roll and 2 glasses of sparkling water, and I am not hungry in any way that food can fix. The dinner unfolds the way these dinners always do, in layers, like geological strata, each one compressing the ones beneath it. My father talks about his golf game. Ashley talks about a case she can't discuss but manages to discuss for 20 minutes anyway. Brooks talks about a hospital fundraiser. My mother orchestrates it all with the gentle, relentless precision of a woman who has been managing her family's public image since before I was born. I am asked, once, about Seattle. I start to answer and my mother says, "Oh, remind me, did I tell you about Claire Henderson's daughter? She just launched an app too. Fitness tracking. She's doing very well." A small smile at Brooks. These tech girls. These tech girls. I look at my father. He is cutting his steak. He doesn't look up. I excuse myself before dessert. The hallway near the restrooms is quiet and smells like gardenias, and I lean against the cool plaster wall and breathe and check my phone. Daniel, 10 minutes out. The exit is right there, I think. Not for the first time, and probably not for the last. I could text Lily. I could say I have a headache. I could climb into my rental car and drive back to the hotel, and call Daniel and tell him we are going to dinner alone, just us, and then I am going to fly home to Seattle tomorrow, and that is the end of it. But I am 31 years old and I am tired of retreating from rooms that were mine first. The hallway door opens and my mother's voice floats around the corner before she does. In the middle of a sentence she is finishing for Aunt Karen, who is visiting from Phoenix and who has not spoken to me tonight except to ask if I'd lost weight in a good way. 14 months, Karen. 14 months she's been telling us about this man and nobody has met him. Not one family member. Doesn't that tell you something? Aunt Karen. She posted a photo on Instagram. Could be anyone. I stopped mentioning it to people. My mother's voice dips into something lower, something she probably thinks of as reasonable concern. I don't know what to say anymore. Is he real? Is it, I don't know, some kind of situation she's embarrassed about? Because that I could understand. A pause. A sound that is almost a laugh. Her sister is engaged to a cardiologist. Karen. Do you know what Mia's boyfriend supposedly does? He's an investor. What does that even mean? It means he has money from somewhere and he doesn't actually make anything. And she just follows him around to these conferences, showing off like, does she actually make a living? From the games? She makes something. A dismissive sound, the particular music of my mother's ambivalence. I don't know. She doesn't tell me anything real. You can't get a straight answer. I've stopped asking, honestly. It's better not to ask. The cold moves through me from my feet upward, like water rising. Better not to ask. I have called her every 2 weeks for 3 years. I called her from the airport at midnight when Vortex shipped its millionth copy, and she said, "That's wonderful. Honey, Ashley just got promoted. Did she tell you?" I called her on my 31st birthday from my studio, surrounded by my team and a cake with a controller on it and more joy than I knew how to hold, and she asked if I was seeing anyone. I have tried, in every language I know, to show her who I am. I have been telling her the truth for years. She has simply chosen not to hear it as truth. I straighten my spine. I feel the wall cool against my shoulder blades. The tears are there but they are not falling, and I decide they are not going to fall. Not here, not tonight. I check my phone. Daniel, outside. Come get me, or should I come in? I type back. Come in. Come right now. My mother and Aunt Karen pass the end of the hallway without seeing me. I give them 30 seconds before I follow. The table has shifted in my absence. My father is reading something on his phone. Ashley and Brooks are in a private conversation, and Lily is watching me walk back across the restaurant with the specific alertness of someone who already suspects the shape of what happened. I stop at her chair and bend down. They were talking in the hallway. The full thing. Lily's jaw tightens. Mia. It's okay. I pick up my champagne glass. It is not okay. But I have decided to be the kind of person who can say that and mean it by the time the night is over. Where's Dad's toast? Did they do it yet? They're waiting for you, actually. Mom wants you to say something. Of course she does. She wants me to stand up and be charming and gracious and perform the version of myself that makes everyone comfortable, the one with the smooth edges and the careful smile. And I have been performing that version for 31 years, and I am going to give it one final, perfect bow tonight. I pick up my champagne glass and stand before I can think about it too hard. I'd actually love to say something. I touch my glass to the side of my mother's in a small, polite sound. Heads turn. My father looks up from his phone, surprised and pleased, the way he sometimes looks at me, that reminds me he is not all bad, that somewhere under the decades of looking away, there is the man who drove me to art competitions at 7 in the morning and said, Whatever you love, Mia, just be good at it. 60 years, I begin, and my voice is steadier than I expect. 60 years of building something. Dad, you've always said that the measure of a person is what they build when no one's watching. You told me that when I was 12, and I've carried it with me to Seattle, and I carry it every day at work. A pause. I think the people who love us most should be the first to believe in what we're building. Before the proof arrives, before the reviews come in, before the numbers are good. I let the word before sit in the air for a moment. That kind of belief is the rarest thing I know. Dad, I hope your next 60 years are full of it. I raise my glass. There is applause. It is warm and slightly confused, and my mother's hands move together twice in the careful way of someone who isn't sure whether she just heard something she should be offended by. Lily, 3 seats away, mouths, perfect. I sit down. I pick up my fork, and then the restaurant door opens, and Daniel walks in. I watch it happen the way you watch something you've imagined so many times, that seeing it in reality feels slightly too bright, slightly too detailed, his dark coat, his measured walk, the unhurried ease of a man who is comfortable in any room, because he has stopped needing rooms to validate him. He spots me across the restaurant and something in his face changes, a warmth that is entirely private and entirely real, and he crosses toward our table. He doesn't make it halfway before a man at the bar 50-something, blazer, the particular alert stillness of someone who recognizes a face, stands up slightly from his stool and says, not quietly, "Is that Daniel Park?" His dinner companion turns. Then the bartender turns. A woman at the table nearest the door glances up from her phone and visibly does a double take. This is the version of tonight I hadn't planned for but somehow knew was possible, because Daniel has been on the cover of Fast Company and appeared on Founders Hour, the business podcast that my mother's friend's husband apparently listens to in the car, because I can see from across the room the exact moment that my father's eyes go from polite curiosity to recognition, and something shifts in his face like furniture being rearranged. Oh my God. The woman near the door is standing now, phone half raised. My husband is obsessed with your podcast episode. Would you mind if I... Daniel smiles at her. Of course. A quick photo. He keeps walking. My mother has not moved. Her champagne glass is still raised from my toast, suspended at a precise angle, and her eyes are tracking Daniel's progress across the restaurant, with an expression I have never seen on her face before. Not quite comprehension, not quite fear, something in between that lives in the space where certainty used to be. He reaches the table. He looks at me first. I'm sorry I'm late. The Meridian call ran 20 minutes over. He sets a small wrapped box on the table in front of my father. Mr. Calloway, happy birthday. Mia has told me so much about you, and I'm sorry it's taken this long. That's on me, and I want to say that directly. He extends his hand, and my father, on reflex, trained by 30 years of boardroom handshakes, takes it. Daniel. My father's voice has a new quality in it. Good to finally yes. Daniel pulls out the empty chair beside me and sits and takes my hand under the table, his thumb tracing the small familiar arc across my knuckles. That means I'm here. I've got you. Take a breath. I take a breath. Mia tells me you're a golfer, Daniel says to my father, with the genuine interest of someone who actually remembered a detail I mentioned 6 months ago. Apparently, you shot your best round in 30 years last spring? My father's face opens in the way it only does when someone asks about his golf game with the specific, credible knowledge that he broke 82 for the first time since 2009. She told you that? She tells me a lot. Daniel glances at me, and the warmth in his eyes is the exact warmth that has nothing to perform for anyone and everything to say. My mother has recovered. I can see it happening in real time. The recalibration, the soft reset of a woman who has spent 40 years being the smartest person in her particular room and has just encountered information she cannot immediately organize. She leans forward. Daniel, we've heard so much about you. It's just wonderful that you could make it tonight. The warmth in her voice is the expensive kind, the kind she reserves for people she has decided matter. Thank you. Genuinely pleasant. Entirely unimpressed. I've heard a lot about tonight, too. Mia was looking forward to seeing everyone. Of course she was. We always love having Mia home. My mother touches her pearl earring, a tell I have cataloged since childhood. She doesn't make it back as often as we'd like. She's fairly busy. Daniel picks up the menu. Did you all see the Wired piece that ran last week? A silence that is shaped exactly like the word no. They did a feature on indie studios that are reshaping the mid-budget game market. He says it the way you might mention the weather factual, without calculation. Mia's studio was the cover story. I might be biased, but I thought they undersold it. My aunt's champagne glass meets the table with a small, precise click. Mia. My father's voice is slow and careful, the way it gets when he is processing something and does not want to get it wrong. You didn't mention, you didn't ask. The words come out softer than I intend them to, without sharpness. Just true. Dad, I called you when the interview was scheduled. You were on your way to the club. You said that's great, honey, and I heard the car door close. My father puts his fork down. He looks at me for a moment that feels longer than it is, and something moves behind his eyes that I recognize as the specific pain of a parent who has suddenly seen the full shape of a mistake they've been making in increments too small to notice individually. Lily says nothing. She is watching with her chin slightly raised in the way she has, that careful, composed attention that I have always loved about her. The studio acquisition is still under NDA for another week, Daniel says pleasantly to no one in particular, because he is not a man who needs to make a point with a sledgehammer when a single quiet sentence will do, but I can say publicly that the valuation came in significantly above projections. Aunt Karen. Acquisition? My mother. Which studio? And then stops, because she knows which studio, because there is only one studio relevant to this table, and the recalibration is happening again, faster this time, and I can see her working backward through every conversation she's had about Mia and her little games, performing that swift, private inventory that people do when the ground shifts, and they need to figure out how long they've been standing in the wrong place. My brother-in-law Brooks, who has said approximately 8 words to me tonight, leans forward. Vortex. That's the puzzle game? My entire office is obsessed with that game. Level 38, Daniel says, and points at him. You got stuck on the mirror sequence? Brooks stares. How did you? Everyone gets stuck on the mirror sequence. He looks at me. We got 17,000 support tickets about it in the first 2 weeks. We redesigned the hint system 3 times, I say, because I cannot help it, because this is the part I actually love, the craft of it, the problem solving, the iteration. The 3rd version finally worked. Daniel is smiling. The retention numbers after that patch were the highest we'd seen. Brooks is now looking at me the way people look at you when they realize they've been using the word little for something that is not little. You built Vortex? I built Vortex. A small, bewildered beat. Then, my colleague pitched it to every person in our office. We did a group play session on a Friday afternoon. Our manager almost didn't let us leave. Something warm and solid settles in my chest, not triumph exactly, more like the quiet satisfaction of a thing being correctly named. My mother is very still. She has the look of a woman who is composing herself and doing it well, because she is good at this, has always been good at this, and I do not hate her for it. I have never hated her. I have loved her with the specific, exhausting love of someone who has spent a long time trying to be loved back in the same language, and kept getting the translation wrong. Mia. Her voice is lower now, stripped of the performance gloss. I didn't know. You did. I say it without unkindness, the way you state a fact about the weather. I told you in April when the Wired interview was confirmed. I told you in January when we hit 5 million downloads. I told you at Christmas that the acquisition was in early talks. You changed the subject every time. I don't think you didn't know. I think you chose not to hear it. A pause. I don't know why. I've thought about it for a long time and I genuinely don't know why. The table is very quiet. The string quartet in the far corner of the restaurant plays something slow and lovely that none of us are listening to. My father says, I didn't know either. His voice has something rough in it, not the full picture. I don't think I should have asked more. You should have. Not cruel, just true. He nods once, slowly. The nod of a man who is not arguing. Daniel's hand finds mine again under the table. I think of the first time we talked, really talked, and how he said, the people who build things that matter are usually the ones everyone else decided to stop believing in first. I think of my studio on a Tuesday morning, the whole team at their desks, the specific smell of good coffee and work, and how I sometimes stand in the doorway and feel something so solid and so mine that the rest of it, the dinners and the careful silences, and the someone in Seattle who does something with video games feels very far away and very small. I don't need to win tonight. I think I stopped needing to win it somewhere between the hallway and Daniel walking through the door. What I needed was to stop pretending the game wasn't happening. Aunt Karen attempts a soft pivot to Ashley's engagement timeline. My mother moves with her, grateful for the redirect, and I let them have it. Lily catches my eye across the table and raises her water glass an inch. A tiny, private toast, and I raise mine back. Daniel leans close. How are you doing? Surprisingly okay. The mirror sequence comment landed. Brooks is going to want to talk about level 38 for the rest of the night. I will discuss level 38 for as long as necessary. He says it with total seriousness, and I feel the laugh come up through my chest before I can stop it, real and unguarded. And my father looks over at the sound of it, and for just a second he smiles too. A small, uncertain smile, but genuine, the kind that doesn't lie. The birthday cake arrives at 9. 60 candles is a lot of candles, and the room brightens with them, and my father leans forward to blow them out the way he always has, with one big breath and one smaller one at the end for the stubborn few, and Lily and I both notice, and both almost say it at the same time, same as every year, and catch each other's eye. And this is the thing that survives everything, I think. The private language that belongs to only the two of us. The knowledge that has nothing to do with proof or acquisition, or who believed what when. My father opens his gift from Daniel, which is a first edition copy of a golf course history book he mentioned in a magazine interview 7 years ago, and Daniel, who apparently listens when I tell stories about my childhood, hunted down through 3 rare book dealers. My father holds it for a long moment without saying anything. Mia told me. Daniel says simply. My father looks at me. You told him about the book. You've mentioned it 6 times since I was 17. 7. My father's voice is thick in a way that is new, or maybe not new, maybe just newly visible. Your mother says I've mentioned it 7 times. My mother is looking at the book in my father's hands with an expression I don't fully have a word for. Tender, maybe. Aware of something. I think she is seeing, for the first time in real time rather than through the soft filter of her own narrative, the specific texture of a relationship she has spent years treating as inconvenient, me and my father, and the small, stubborn love that survived all the ways we have disappointed each other. She looks up from the book and meets my eyes and doesn't look away. I don't look away either. We stay like that for a moment, my mother and I, across the birthday candles, and the champagne glasses, and the long, complicated history of a woman trying to see her daughter clearly, and a daughter trying to be worth seeing. I don't smile. She doesn't smile. But something passes between us that is more honest than anything we said tonight, and I think maybe that is where it starts. If it starts at all, not with apology, not with proof, not with a cover story or an acquisition or a man walking in from the right direction, but with 2 people finally looking at each other without flinching. We leave before 11. The night air is cool and sharp, and I stand on the sidewalk outside the Sterling and breathe it in. All of it. The relief and the residue, and the complicated fullness of a night that did exactly what it needed to do, and nothing more. Daniel stands beside me. He doesn't say anything. He is good at not saying things, which is one of the things I love most about him. She called you my imaginary boyfriend, I tell him. In the hallway, before you arrived. I assumed something like that was happening. 14 months, and she told people she didn't know what to say. I know. I should have brought you home sooner. I kept giving her reasons not to have to see you. You were protecting yourself. No judgment in it, that's allowed. I think about the young woman on my team, 23 years old, who told me last month that her family keeps asking when she's going to get a real job. I think about what I told her, that the thing about building something from nothing is that nothing looks like nothing until suddenly it doesn't, and the people who were too busy looking away will call that overnight. I think about how easy it is to know the right thing to say to someone else, and how long it takes to be able to say it about yourself. I don't need her to be proud of me, I say, and feel the truth of it as I say it, real and slightly surprising. I think I needed to stop acting like I did. Daniel turns to look at me. The streetlight catches his face, and I think of the conference room in San Francisco and the terrible coffee and the way he said things that matter, and I wrote it in the margin of my program with shaking hands. You're the most capable person I know, he says. And I know a lot of capable people. You have to say that. I really don't. He takes my hand. The Meridian board said it independently today, for what it's worth, before they signed. I laugh again, the real laugh, the unguarded one. The night opens out around us, big and cool and full of the specific possibility of things that have already been decided: the acquisition, the studio, the team back in Seattle who will be in at 8 tomorrow because that's the kind of team they are, the level 38 mirror sequence that 4 million people got stuck on and I fixed. I built that. From the beginning. Alone. Before anyone decided it was worth believing in. That is the sentence I carry back to the hotel with me, up in the elevator and into the quiet room, and I set it down gently on the windowsill alongside the city lights, and let it stay there, solid and unargued and mine. My phone buzzes. Lily, you were incredible tonight. He's incredible. I love you. Also, Dad cried a little in the car. For your information, don't tell him I told you. Then, after a pause, Mom asked me for your studio's Instagram. Just so you know. I set the phone face down on the nightstand. I look at Daniel, who is already asleep, or nearly, one arm across the pillow, entirely uncomplicated about the whole thing in the way that I am slowly learning to be. I don't text my mother back tonight. There is no urgency in it anymore. If she wants to see what I've built, she knows where to look. I am not hiding. I have never been hiding. I have been here, in plain sight, doing the work, the whole time. Some truths don't need a dramatic entrance. They just need you to stop apologizing for taking up space while they arrive. I turn off the lamp. Outside, the city continues its ordinary, magnificent work. I close my eyes. Tomorrow there is a board call at 7 and a design review at 10 and a mentorship session with the 23-year-old whose family keeps asking about real jobs, and I am going to look at her across the table and mean every word. You were building something. The whole time, you were building something. They just couldn't see it yet.